After quarreling with the courtesan, the crown prince married me in a fit of pique. On our wedding night, she disguised herself as a palace maid and barged into the eastern palace, openly flirting with the crown prince. He spent the night with her in a side courtyard, calling for water all night long. At the palace banquet, the noble ladies all mocked me, calling me a pitiful creature unloved by her husband. I paid it no mind, continuing to play the virtuous crown princess, until the crown prince returned from battle, a scar now etched across his brow. My smiling face abruptly turned cold. Fool, how could you let that face be scarred? One more scar, and he no longer resembles my beloved. For a courtesan, the crown prince struck the nearly 50-year-old Marquis of Yongan. Rumors spread like wildfire through Shengjing's tea houses and taverns. Unheard of. The crown prince personally laid hands on someone over a song for the courtesan. And that's not all. They say when courtesan Yunsheng casually praised the fine brocades of Jiangnan, the next day the crown prince sent all the brocades bestowed by the empress to the drunken flower pavilion. That courtesan sure has luck on her side. This enraged the emperor. The crown prince was punished by kneeling in the ancestral temple, and rumors even spread that the emperor intended to depose him. That night, a trusted aide rushed a handwritten letter to the crown prince. Ninkin, father favors you most, please speak for me. Only when he truly needed me did he address me thus. I tossed and turned all night, consumed by anxiety. At the first light of dawn, I waited outside the hall of diligent governance. Upon seeing the emperor, I knelt heavily. Your Majesty, the crown prince understands his error. I beg you to pardon him this once. The emperor sighed deeply, his disappointment palpable. The crown prince is utterly blind. He neglects a woman like you, cultured, devoted solely to him, yet fixates on that lowly courtesan unfit for any respectable setting. Your kneeling is futile. This time, I shall punish him severely, so he learns his lesson. With that, the emperor swept his sleeves and turned into the inner chambers. Suddenly, a torrential downpour erupted outside the palace gates. Beads of rain as large as beans pelted the blue bricks, and I shivered uncontrollably from the cold. I remained motionless, letting the rain soak through my palace robes. Your Majesty, the crown prince is your own flesh and blood. I beg you, for the sake of fatherly affection, show mercy. I knelt for what felt like an eternity until my consciousness began to fade, and I finally collapsed unconscious in the rain. Thankfully, the emperor's heart softened in the end. Not only did he pardon the crown prince, but he also dispatched imperial guards to escort me back to my residence. Noticing the maidservant's evasive gaze, I asked in puzzlement. The emperor forgave the crown prince. Are you unhappy? Haoku hesitated for a moment before speaking indignantly. Miss, you knelt in the rain all night pleading for his highness. You've fallen ill. Yet the crown prince rode straight to the drunken flower pavilion after court. You begged for him until you were sick, and he didn't even come to see you. Is that Yunsheng girl really that special? My hand holding the medicine bowl trembled slightly. My secret affection for the crown prince was known to every noble lady in the capital. Yet the crown prince, wild and untamed, has fallen for a courtesan. If word of this spreads, how will those young ladies gossip about you? I set the bowl down gently. My devotion to the crown prince is deep. He will come to love me, sooner or later. Bring the brocade I had specially sourced days ago. I shall make him a garment. Seeing my lack of resolve, Haoku pouted angrily and stormed off. The next moment, a servant rushed in, flustered. Princess, hurry to the street. The crown prince and the courtesan are arguing. The main street was packed with onlookers. Rumor had it that when the crown prince arrived at the drunken flower pavilion, Yunsheng was reclining in the arms of a wealthy young nobleman, drinking with him. Thus, the quarrel erupted. Father was right, you truly are a shameless flirt. So what if I am? You monopolize me daily yet can't marry me. Stop acting like a pretentious fool. Perhaps confident in the crown prince's weakness and her status as the capital's most beautiful woman, Yunsheng stood with hands on hips, utterly unafraid. What sets you apart from those spoiled brats who fawn over me, begging for a glance, besides your title? You can't give me the future I want anyway, just let me go. The crown prince's face flushed crimson with rage. Hidden in the crowd, I stared at Zhi Yanli's strikingly handsome, almost otherworldly face. He looked so much like him. Sensing my intense gaze, Crown Prince Zhi Yanli abruptly turned to face me. Though his words were directed at me, his eyes darted toward Yunsheng. I shall show you what happens to those who disrespect the crown prince. You will marry me today. Before I could react, Zhi Yanli swept me into his arms, leaped onto his horse, and rode away. Word spread that the crown prince had changed his ways, and the emperor was delighted. To prevent further complications, the wedding was hastily arranged. Days later, the Eastern Palace hung with crimson silk and festive lanterns. In the bedchamber, I sat upright on the bed covered with 100 children quilt, listening to Zhi Yanli's footsteps drawing nearer. My heart raced with both anticipation and dread. The crown prince had specifically chosen me as his brides must have feelings for me, right? The door swung open, and Zhi Yanli entered, clad in a crimson wedding robe. He gently lifted the red veil. Before my eyes appeared the handsome, striking face of Crown Prince Zhi Yanli. Gazing into his eyes, I felt a momentary daze. This moment had waited far too long for it. The matron beside me beamed with satisfaction, offering the symbolic descendants buns representing fertility and blessings. Just as I reached out to take them, the door burst open. A woman dressed as a palace maid entered without waiting for an announcement. All eyes instantly focused on her. She lifted her head, revealing a face with almond-shaped eyes and rosy cheeks, exquisitely made up. Her eyes were exceptionally large, the outer corners slightly upturned, radiating an innate charm amidst her innocence. Who else could it be but Yunsheng, the courtesan par excellence? The crown prince wore a look of shock, then his expression darkened. What brings you here? Did you not say I was standing in the outhouse but not relieving myself? Since that's the case, I've now married as you wished. What you once scorned no longer scorns you. Leave. Though his words were sharp, his gaze remained fixed on her, utterly beyond his control. Yunsheng said nothing, she merely bit her lower lip lightly, her large, watery eyes gazing at the crown prince with a look of utter devotion. Within moments, her eyes reddened, and tears streamed down uncontrollably. Her appearance, like a pear blossom drenched in rain, pitiful and vulnerable, was truly heartbreaking to behold. The anger on the crown prince's face vanished instantly, replaced by panic and heartache. He instinctively took a step forward, his tone softening. Why are you crying? Yunsheng turned her head to look at me. Zhi Yanli turned to look at me, his gaze somewhat evasive. Ninkin, I must discuss urgent matters with her. Rest now. Rest assured, I'll return shortly. I clenched the wedding veil in my hand, forcing a docile, proper smile. I even picked up the silver fox fur cloak beside me and fastened it for him myself. Very well, Your Highness, please go. The night wind is strong, take care not to catch cold. After fastening the belt, I pressed a warm hot water bottle into his hand. Take this to warm your hands, don't let them freeze. Whether my gesture seemed too generous or the hot water bottle caught her eye, Yunsheng glared at the crown prince with a look of jealous resentment before turning and rushing toward the door. Shengert, the crown prince, heedless of anything else, hastily took the hot water bottle I offered and left. His personal maid, Hao Kui, her eyes red with anger, spoke up for me. Miss, you are the rightful crown princess. How dare she disrupt your wedding night like this? Do you truly fear a lowly courtesan? I slowly sat back down on the bedside, offering no reply. Instead, I reached out and picked up the slightly cooled Zisen bao bao from the tray, eating it bite by bite. Only when I finished did I speak softly. His happiness is my greatest wish. Go to the kitchen and instruct them to warm up some osmanthus chicken soup, the crown prince's favorite. He may wish to eat it when he returns later. The matron standing nearby frowned upon hearing this. Crown princess, have you mistaken something? This servant has served in the palace for many years and has never heard that His Highness the Crown Prince favors osmanthus chicken soup. It seems, he prefers heavily spiced dishes. My hand holding the bun froze mid-air as I slowly lifted my head. If I say he likes it, then he likes it. You are to mind your own duties. When did it become your place to question the master's preferences? The matron and several attendants flinched at the cold steel in my eyes. They exchanged nervous glances before silently retreating. The next moment, I carefully drew a pouch from my sleeve. Made of ordinary fabric, it had faded from years of handling. I pressed the worn pouch tightly against my chest. Yan Ci, you once promised that upon your triumphant return, you would give me the grandest wedding in all Shengjing. See, we've finally become husband and wife, how wonderful. Clothed, I lay alone on the wedding bed strewn with peanuts and red dates, spending my wedding night by myself. Of course, the crown prince did not return that night, but it didn't matter. I believed he would fall in love with me sooner or later, he would. The next morning, I was awakened by Crown Prince Si Yanli. Ninken, it's time to rise. Opening my eyes, I saw Zi Yanli before me, clad in a deep blue brocade robe. Even though he was heavily perfumed with orchid and musk, I still keenly detected the sweet, suggestive scent lingering on his skin. It was the distinctive scent following an intimate night between a man and a woman. Lowering my eyelashes, I discreetly tucked the old pouch back into my sleeve. Go fetch some agarwood incense to burn for your highness. Lifting my eyes to meet his, I forced a gentle smile. Your highness possesses such distinguished bearing. The deep, dignified aroma of agarwood would be far more fitting for you. An overpowering fragrance would only seem vulgar. He paused slightly, a hint of relief washing over his face. I knew he was pleased with my magnanimity. He spread his arms in compliance, his tone unusually gentle. Very well, whatever Ninken says shall be done. Breathing in the familiar scent of agarwood, tears slipped and noticed down my cheeks. Memories of days gone by suddenly flooded my mind. Not enough, still not enough. My gaze shifted to the wardrobe, and I ordered another set of simple, moon-white brocade brought forth. Your Highness, I believe this moon-white hue better accentuates your noble and refined elegance. Might you consider changing into this today? He glanced at it, waved his hand, and smiled. It is unnecessary. Only my third brother, with his refined tastes, favors such pale hues. I've never cared for them too plain, too austere. I persisted, reaching directly to undo the jade clasp of his sash. He looked taken aback. That, Your Highness, is precisely where you misunderstand. Your servant noticed last night that Miss Yunsheng's pale pink gown was refreshingly ethereal. Paired with Your Highness's moon-white elegance today, they complement each other perfectly. Oh, really? He took the garment skeptically, holding it up to the bronze mirror. Now that you mention it, there is some truth to that. After changing, he suddenly frowned as if remembering something. I did not return last night. Does the crown princess truly not feel angry? I lowered my head, concealing all emotion. This humble servant desires nothing but Your Highness's joy and contentment, that you may smile brightly each day. Your Highness's happiness is my happiness. These words clearly pleased him immensely. For the first time ever, he reached out and took my wrist. How sensible, truly worthy of being my crown princess. Come, I have leisure today, I'll take you to the finest cosmetics shop in the capital. I followed obediently at his side, letting him lead me into the carriage. Little did I expect that even buying cosmetics would lead to quite a spectacle. In a private room on the second floor, I sat across from Crown Prince Si Yanli. Exquisite tea and pastries adorned the table. Yet his mind seemed elsewhere, his gaze frequently drifting down to the bustling crowd below. I knew his thoughts were on the courtesan Yunsheng. Just as the atmosphere grew tense, commotion erupted among the crowd below. The crown prince and I leaned forward to peer down. A wedding procession had been forced to halt. The next moment, the wedding sedan chair was violently flung open. A figure clad in scarlet stumbled out. It was Yunsheng, the courtesan. She hadn't taken more than a few steps before being tripped by a servant chasing after her. She fell to the ground, looking utterly disheveled. A greasy-looking man dressed in the same bright red wedding robe caught up to her. It was the Marquis of Yong'an. He grabbed Yunsheng's bound wrists with a death grip. Yunsheng, the crown prince has already married his official consort. What delusions do you still cling to? Is my Yongin marquis residence not worthy of you? Besides, the crown prince was severely reprimanded by the emperor over you last time. He can barely protect himself now, let alone you. Know your place. Come quietly with this marquis to the mansion for the wedding ceremony. Yunsheng was forced to lift her head, her face streaked with tears. You dream. I'd rather die than be with you, you filthy pig. You bitch. How dare you insult me? It turned out the crown prince loved Yunsheng precisely because of her unfiltered, genuine nature. Struck at his core, the Yongin marquis's obese face instantly turned the color of liver. In a fit of rage and humiliation, he raised his hand to strike Yunsheng across the face. Her fair cheek instantly turned purple and swelled. Inside the private room, Crown Prince Si Yanli's eyes narrowed with fury as he slammed his fist on the table. You filthy scum! He lunged to rush down and rescue the damsel in distress. But 2 guards immediately stepped forward to restrain him. Your Highness, His Majesty has issued an order. Please be cautious in your words and actions. Do not sacrifice the greater good for the sake of the lesser, nor stir up unnecessary trouble. Indeed, ever since the crown prince had beaten a court official in the street for Yunsheng's sake, the emperor had not only severely punished him but also assigned new guards to the Eastern Palace. Their purpose was to keep the crown prince in check, preventing him from committing any further acts that would tarnish the imperial family's reputation. The crown prince's face turned ashen with rage, yet he was powerless to act. Seeing him so utterly flustered, a sharp pang of pain surged in my heart. Yan Ci, the bright, resourceful youth I remembered from my deepest memories, would never have lost his composure like this. I took a deep breath and calmly reassured the crown prince. Your Highness, your exalted status makes it inappropriate for you to confront the Marquis of Yongin at this moment. Rest assured, let me handle it for you. He stared at me in disbelief, his eyes wide with astonishment. Accompanied by my personal maid, I descended the stairs and approached the Marquis of Yongin. I whispered something to him. Moments later, the Marquis shot Yunsheng a fierce glare, then bowed slightly to me before finally departing with his men, clearly displeased. The crisis averted, Yunsheng offered no thanks. She shook off her maid's support, lifting her still stunning face. Her chin jutted defiantly. Did the crown prince send you to help me? Tell him if he has the guts. Let him come himself. What kind of coward sends a woman in his place? Hiding like a turtle isn't exactly the act of a man who stands tall. No sooner had she spoken than a figure burst from the inn. It was Crown Prince Si Yanli. Without a word, he swept Yunsheng into his arms. Yunsheng, fear not. I came too late. Seeing you bullied by that old fool just now nearly broke my heart. Rest assured, even if I die, I will never let that old bastard take advantage of you in the slightest. Yunsheng nestled against him, turning to look at me. You, Crown Princess, are truly something else. You actually told that fat pig I'm carrying the Crown Prince's bloodline. The moment he heard it, his face went pale as a sheet, and he ran off like a scared rat. Crown Prince Si Yanli's eyes flickered with surprise at her words. His voice softened considerably as he spoke. Ninkin, thank you for your quick thinking. Seeing that rare tenderness in his eyes, my heart stirred slightly. Just as I was about to speak, Yunsheng beat me to it. She hooked her arm through the crown prince's and pointed toward a newly opened wonton shop on the street. I heard they just launched shrimp dumplings. Freshly peeled shrimp. I tell you, absolutely delicious. You pampered crown prince, you've surely never tasted such street-side delights. Today, this lady will broaden your horizons. She tugged him toward the shop, even glancing back at me. Her eyes held a barely perceptible smugness, as if saying, see, he listens to me. The crown prince seemed to forget I existed, letting Yunsheng pull him toward the small shop. Oh, is it really that good? Then I suppose I must try it. Maid Hao Kui watched the scene, her eyes reddening with anger. Crown Princess, His Highness, how could he do this? You just did him such a huge favor, and he forgets it in an instant. That's outrageous. I turned calmly, my voice utterly unruffled. Let's go upstairs. Xiaokui looked at me in confusion. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, offering a gentle smile. That pot of bilyawoken isn't finished yet, it's just reaching its peak flavor, let's not waste it. Besides, it's his favorite tea. Xiaokui followed behind me, murmuring softly, Princess Consort, His Highness doesn't like bilyawoken. He finds it too bitter. My steps didn't falter, I pretended not to hear. He doesn't like it, it doesn't matter, one day he will. Otherwise, how could he be the perfect stand-in? Perhaps because I never showed the slightest displeasure. Crown Prince Si Yanli and Yunsheng grew increasingly brazen. He even built a grand courtyard beside the Eastern Palace and installed Yunsheng there. I heard that to win a single smile from her, the Crown Prince spared no expense, inviting the most renowned theatrical troupe in the capital to perform for 3 days and nights straight. As time passed, Yunsheng's appetite grew ever larger, nurtured by the Crown Prince. Merely stealing the Crown Prince's affections was no longer enough. She began openly coveting the position of Crown Princess. My cherished ancient Polonia zither, she took it under the pretense of appreciation, only to casually toss it into the furnace flames. On my birthday, she took the filigree gold phoenix hairpin gifted to me by the Empress from my trousseau and pinned it in her own hair. Each time, whenever the slightest disagreement arose between us regardless of who was right or wrong, the Crown Prince would immediately frown and scold me for being unreasonable. Ninkin, why have you become so petty? That's just her naturesse fadrader and without malice. You've always been the magnanimous one. Can't you show her a little more understanding? Don't you know how much suffering she's endured? Growing up in such a place, witnessing the coldness and warmth of human relationships. Yet despite all that, she still retains this innocence and resilience. Don't you find that truly precious? My personal maid, Xiaokui, couldn't bear it any longer and spoke up for me. Your Highness, it was clearly Miss Yunsheng who took the Crown Princess's hairpin first. Before she could finish, the Crown Prince cut her off sharply. How dare you? When did a mere servant like you earn the right to speak here? He immediately ordered Xiaokui's monthly allowance to be withheld for 3 months. Looking at his face, my anger suddenly vanished. How could I bring myself to be harsh with a face so strikingly similar to his? Tonight, he made a rare visit to my quarters. The maid said he'd quarreled with Yunsheng. Ninkin, you are gentle and virtuous, forgiving and magnanimous. To have you as my wife is truly my greatest blessing. Unlike that sharp-tongued one, who only knows how to speak the harshest words, making me suffer. That night, the look in his eyes seemed different from usual. As he spoke, he unexpectedly let down his guard and told me about himself and the late third prince, Ziyang. He said the position of crown prince had never truly been meant for him. The emperor valued most his brilliantly talented, upright, and steadfast twin brother, the late third prince. As for him, he had been a reckless, idle playboy since childhood, never aspiring to the throne. Had his brother not died unexpectedly, this crushing burden would never have fallen upon his shoulders. He recounted those memories with self-mockery, tinged with a barely perceptible melancholy. As I listened to his description of the third prince of that radiant, otherworldly figure from his memories, a sharp pang of pain gripped my heart. Yes, how could such a youth, who had captivated time itself and occupied every thought of my adolescence, such a man as pure as the moonlight and breeze, how could he have died? Ninkin, the tea spilling over, his voice abruptly snatched my wandering thoughts back. Only then did I realize the water from the teapot in my hands had long since flooded the table. What were you thinking about, so lost in thought? Gazing at his features, so strikingly similar to Ziyanqi's, my tears suddenly burst forth without warning. My Yan Ci, has he returned? I reached out, tracing his brow and eyes. Yan, I've missed you so much. His body stiffened slightly, his Adam's apple bobbed, and the gaze he cast upon me deepened abruptly. After a long silence, his voice came hoarse. Ninkin, you've been married to the Eastern Palace for so long, yet I have never consummated our union. Have you harbored resentment toward me? I shook my head firmly. No resentment. As your highness's consort, all matters are secondary to your highness. The words barely left my lips when he suddenly seized my wrist. His breathing grew ragged and heavy, his eyes churning with currents I couldn't fathom. I could hold back no longer. Rising on my toes, I pressed my lips to his. This kiss carried the pent-up passion of years. As our lips and teeth entwined, it was the happiest moment since I entered the Eastern Palace. After a brief, stunned pause, the Crown Prince swept me into his arms and carried me step by step toward the bed. The air thickened with sensual tension. Just as we were lost in passion, our garments half undone, the door burst open. Yunsheng's maid rushed in, breathless. Your Highness, it's terrible. Miss Yunsheng fell from the stage while practicing conch opera to surprise Yusha's broken her leg. They say broken bones take 100 days to heal. And Crown Prince Xi Yanli truly stayed by her side for 3 full months. To avoid being constantly by her bedside, the Crown Prince claimed ill health and requested extended leave from the Emperor, even skipping morning court sessions. Throughout those 3 months, the sound of stringed instruments and flutes filled the courtyard night after night. Sitting in my boudoir, I stared blankly at the tattered pouch. The absurd lengths the Crown Prince went to win a smile from his beloved had long become an open secret among Shengjing's elite. Yet everyone read the situation clearly. No one dared utter a word before the Emperor. All feared inviting misfortune by offending this heir apparent whose behavior grew ever more erratic. It wasn't until Xi Yanli's birthday that he returned to the East Palace. Seeing me directing the palace attendants and preparing the banquet, a flicker of shame crossed his face. He took my hand, his tone tinged with flattery. Ninken, you've worked tirelessly these past days. You are the most generous and kind-hearted maiden I have ever known. My personal maid, Hao Kui, seeing this, promptly presented a set of brand new brocade garments. Your Highness, please look, this is what the Crown Princess specially prepared for your birthday. The Crown Princess went to great lengths to find these 2 rare pieces of shoe brocade in the color of sky after rain. Look at the subtle orchid patterns woven into the fabric. She personally designed the pattern herself. It's elegant and unique, perfectly matching your noble bearing, Your Highness. Xi Yanli's gaze fell upon the orchid embroidery, and he smiled. In the sunlight, the small mole at the corner of his eye seemed particularly alluring. My heart pounded wildly. Orchids are lovely, pure and refined. But I still prefer trumpet vines more. Climbing upward, towering above all flowers, they possess greater grandeur. Under normal circumstances, I would have smiled and nodded. But this time, I did not. I grabbed the orchid-patterned brocade robe directly, my tone carrying an unyielding force. Xi Yanli, what you like is none of my concern. From this day forward, you may only love orchids. He was merely Yancey's substitute, he had to love orchids. Perhaps my unusual defiance stirred his desire to conquer. He swept me up in his arms and tossed me onto the bed with a thud. Whispers brushed my ear as the crimson silk canopy grew warm. This time, we finally consummated our union. After the madness, he fell into a deep, satisfied sleep. Lying beside him, I traced my finger slowly over the small mole at the corner of his eye. I remembered the late third prince, Xi Yanci. On the riding grounds, he taught me to ride with gentle care. On the hillside, he pinned the freshest begonia blossoms in my hair. During the spring hunt, when I was bitten by a snake, he sucked out the venom without hesitation, protecting me completely. He promised that upon his triumphant return, he would give me the grandest wedding in the world. But he died, plunged from a cliff, his body never found. I never even got to see him one last time. Yet I firmly believed he was still alive, that he was the one lying beside me now. As tears soaked the pillowcase, Xiaokui's voice came from outside. Crown Princess, it's getting late. It's time to prepare for the guests celebrating the Crown Prince's birthday. The Eastern Palace was bustling with guests, a scene of festive cheer. Seated beside the Crown Prince, I overheard several elegantly dressed noblewomen whispering, "Did you see? She holds the title of Crown Princess Consort in name only. In truth, His Highness spends every night at that courtesan's villa. Rumor has it he hasn't slept in the Eastern Palace for 3 months. Good heavens, how can she endure such humiliation? If it were me, I'd storm in and scratch that shameless vixen's face to pieces. Ah, you just don't understand. Since she's not favored, how could she dare compete with the Crown Prince's beloved? Keeping her position intact is already a blessing. The Crown Prince clearly heard these sharp remarks. His brows furrowed slightly, lips parting as if to speak in my defense. Yet in the next instant, all eyes were drawn to a figure emerging. Yunsheng, clad in dazzling theatrical robes, made her grand entrance. Her sleeves swayed gracefully as she glided across the stage. Her eyes sparkled with the allure of a performer, yet radiated a uniquely captivating charm. A flash of astonishment and fascination flickered in Ziyanli's eyes. Any trace of guilt he had felt toward me vanished instantly. On stage, the actors sang in melodious tones. Below the stage, Yunsheng gazed at the Crown Prince with eyes like autumn waters, words lingering on her lips. The two exchanged deep, loving glances, oblivious to the mocking whispers of the guests. News of this spectacle swiftly reached the Empress's ears. She deemed me, the Crown Prince's consort, incompetentionable to keep even my own husband in check, allowing a courtesan to act so brazenly at the imperial birthday banquet. That very night, I was summoned to the Phoenix resting palace. She asked no questions, merely casting a cold glance my way before ordering me to kneel upon the golden bricks for reflection. My personal maid, Hao Kua, heartbroken for me, secretly ran to plead with the Crown Prince. But soon, she returned, weeping. Crown Princess, His Highness said Miss Yunsheng had just learned a Western belly dance and was about to perform it for him, so she couldn't come. His Highness also said to tell you to obey the Empress's words and sincerely admit your mistake. The floor tiles of Fenki Palace were bitterly cold. I truly felt like a laughingstock. The chill crept up my knees, seeping slowly into my heart. In the dead of night, darkness engulfed my vision, and I fainted. When I awoke, I found myself in the Eastern Palace's bedchamber. I heard the Empress had finally relented and ordered my return. Maids and servants bustled about, preparing medicine and congee for me. Yet the side courtyard of the Eastern Palace glowed with light, faintly echoing with the coquettish laughter of women. I pulled on my robe and rose, walking alone into the courtyard. Yan Ci, if it truly is you, you would never stand by and watch me suffer such injustice, would you? The pouch remained silent. A cold wind swept past, sending a shiver through me. I stood beneath the moon for a long, long time. I love Ziyanci. Everyone says he's dead, but I refuse to believe it. If I cannot deceive myself into thinking he's still alive, I truly would die. So even if a bottomless abyss lies before me, I can only close my eyes and leap forward. Just as I agonized over whether to continue using the Crown Prince as a substitute, an unexpected turn arrived. The Northern Frontier War intensified. Overruling all objections, the Emperor resolved to send the Crown Prince to the battlefield for training. When the news reached the villa, Yunsheng turned pale with fright. She clutched the Crown Prince's sleeve desperately, tears streaming down her face. Your Highness, swords and spears have no eyes. If anything happens to you, how could I possibly go on living? The Crown Prince embraced her tenderly, soothing her with gentle words for a long while, promising he would return safely. My heart ached too, clenched tight with worry. But my concern wasn't for Ziyanli's safety, it was for his face. That face, almost identical to Ziyanci's. I had already lost Ziyanci. I couldn't bear to lose someone who resembled him. Seizing an opportunity before his departure, I urged him earnestly. Your Highness, the battlefield is treacherous. You must protect yourself, especially your face. I swallowed the latter half of that sentence. He looked at me, seemingly moved. I know. The Eastern Palace and Yunsheng, you've gone to great lengths. After a tearful farewell, he donned his silver armor and led his army forth. At first, reports of victory came thick and fast. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince showed his prowess early, winning several splendid battles. The capital rejoiced, and my anxious heart eased slightly. As long as he was safe, as long as that face remained unharmed, my hope would endure. Amidst his busyness, he even sent messengers bearing goat's milk from the frontier. Xiao Kui chirped with delight, "Your Highness is so kind. The Crown Prince finally sees your worth and is eager to make it up to you." But the good news was short-lived. A secret dispatch arrived, reporting the army trapped and His Highness surrounded. Yunsheng turned pale with fear, pacing restlessly day and night. Finally, she even began secretly packing her valuables and gold, muttering about securing a backup plan for herself. Just as panic gripped everyone and she resolved to pack her bags and flee, news of victory arrived from the front. His Royal Highness had returned. On the day Zi Yanli returned triumphant, the streets of Shengjing emptied as 10,000 people lined the roads. I stood at the gate of the Eastern Palace, watching that figure riding a tall horse, silhouetted against the light, and my heart swelled with emotion. After months apart, he had grown more robust, shedding some of his former frivolity. My Yancy had returned. As the procession drew nearer, his features came into sharper focus. The smile on my face froze instantly. A hideous, twisted crimson scar now marred his once smooth skin. He was different, completely different. He no longer resembled Zi Yancy. Without another glance, I turned and ran toward the palace. I ignored the stunned cries of those calling after me. "Zi Yanli, even when you treated me coldly, the sole reason my heart delighted in you was your resemblance to Zi Yancy. But now that your face is ruined, what right do you have to demand another look from me?" Within the hall of diligent governance, I knelt heavily. "I beseech your majesty to grant this humble maiden permission to dissolve the marriage with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." The emperor stared at me in shock. "Ning Chun, why this? The Crown Prince has just returned victorious, and you?" "The Crown Prince holds no affection for this maiden. Since that is the case, it is better to part ways amicably." I lifted my head, my gaze unusually resolute. "I implore your majesty to grant this request." My words were final. The Crown Prince's erratic behavior was no secret to the emperor. After a long silence, he sighed deeply and picked up his brush to write the decree of separation. The moment I held that scroll of bright yellow silk in my hands, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Xiao Kui, who had been following behind me, whispered softly, "Miss, why? His Highness has just returned safely. How could you?" I halted, gazing at the square patch of sky above the palace walls. His face bears a new scar. He no longer resembles my Yanci. After leaving the Eastern Palace, I became a different person. I returned to the princess's residence and began frantically searching for men who resembled Zi Yanci. Those with similar eyes, similar builds, similar voices. Any who reminded me of Zi Yanci, I would lavishly pay to keep them by my side. Clinging to these pieced-together shadows, I replayed our first meeting over and over. I knew I was losing my mind, but if I didn't cling to these fragments, I would truly die. One night half a year later, I lay lazily in the arms of a white-robed gentleman, eating grapes from his hand. The other stand-ins were either practicing swordsmanship or practicing calligraphy. The courtyard gate was kicked open violently. A familiar figure burst in. Zi Yanli. His gaze locked on the man in the courtyard, a flicker of realization crossing his brow. "All this time, I had men following you and Xiao Kui. Only now do I understand why you were ever kind to me. Xia Ninkin, all these years you've adored me only to treat me as a stand-in?" I lifted my drunken gaze to meet his. Seeing the scar on his face, I laughed foolishly. "You only realize it now? The one I've always loved is your dead twin brother, Zi Yanci. Otherwise, why do you think I treated you so well? Why did I always give in to you? It's because of this face is exactly like his." As I spoke, tears streamed down my face, and I wept and laughed at the same time. "You say he was so good, such a good person. How could he be gone?" I grabbed Zi Yanli's collar, tilting my head back with drunken eyes. "It doesn't matter who you love, whether it's Yunsheng or Kaisheng. I just want you to be happy." Do you know why? Because when you smile, you look most like third Prince Si Yancy. But he's dead. Si Yanli suddenly gripped my shoulders, his voice hoarse. My younger brother, Si Yancy, died 5 years ago. Ning Chun. Snap out of it. Shut up. His words stabbed me like a knife, years of pent-up resentment erupting. Don't you dare curse him. If it weren't for your face, I would have left you long ago. His eyes reddened, his voice raspy. So you made me wear moon-white robes, burn agarwood incense, even eat chicken congee and drink bilyawoken teal because Si Yancy I liked them. I snorted coldly, grabbing the wine cup beside me and downing it in one gulp. What else could it be? When Zi Yanli returned to the villa, his mind was haunted by Xianinkin's tear-filled, resolute eyes. Those words, "You're nothing but a substitute," pierced his heart like needles. Deep down, he knew Xianinkin had always loved him. For 5 long years, every winter, she'd secretly sew silver fox knee pads into his court robes, hoping to shield him from the cold. When he struggled to sleep, she'd gather calming herbs, quietly stitch them into sachets, and have eunuchs slip them beneath his pillow. Whenever he returned late, she would wait for him with a lantern at the most secluded side gate of the Eastern Palace. Only after he came back would she quietly slip away. What moved Zi Yanli most was how she had secretly copied his handwriting just so she could share the burden when the Grand Tutor punished him by making him copy texts. She had been his devoted admirer for 5 years, and he had long grown accustomed to her kindness. But he never imagined her affection for him was entirely false. The real joke was himself. He stumbled through the door, disoriented, only to find Yunsheng approaching him, her clothes askew. She wore nothing but a sheer veil, her cheeks flushed. On any other day, his thoughts would have wandered. But now, he felt only an inexplicable irritation. "Your Highness," Yunsheng approached in a sweet voice, her tone slightly strained. Zi Yanli instinctively sidestepped her. "I'm tired." Yunsheng turned to leave, but her expression changed as she retched. Zi Yanli felt as if struck by lightning. He seized Yunsheng's wrist, his gaze piercing. "What's wrong?" "And nothing. Perhaps I ate something bad." Yunsheng's eyes darted nervously as she tried to pull free. "Summon the imperial physician." Zi Yanli watched her coldly, a sense of foreboding rising within him. Sure enough, Yunsheng was already 2 months pregnant. 2 months? Zi Yanli's eyes blazed with fury. "I was away on campaign for 4 full months, yet you've been pregnant for 2? What do you take me for, a fool?" He seized her slender neck, veins bulging on his temples. Yunsheng's face drained of color, yet she still tried to justify herself. "Your Highness, the child truly is yours." "Shut up!" Zi Yanli hurled her violently to the floor, feeling for the first time an overwhelming revulsion toward her. "Lock her in the woodshed. No one is to release her without my command." After dealing with Yunsheng, Zi Yanli felt drained of all strength, slumping into his chair. The chamber fell deathly silent, broken only by his heavy breathing. His hand instinctively reached into his robe, finding the old pouch Xianinkin had pressed into his hands before his departure. The fabric was coarse, its edges frayed, the color severely faded. As he stroked the pouch, Xianinkin's ice calm as still water floated into his mind. Even on the battlefield, an inexplicable dread had gripped him. He'd always sensed he would lose her soon. He never imagined she would actually leave. From the very beginning, he'd wondered why she had always been so kind to him. He didn't care for bilyawoken tea, nor did he like that cloyingly sweet osmanthus porridge. Yet seeing the anticipation in her eyes, he'd always finish it in one gulp. Later, he'd grown accustomed to it. Accustomed to her silent attentions. Accustomed to her gentle compliance. Accustomed to her always being behind him. With her there, his heart felt grounded. But that sense of grounding, from start to finish, was never meant for him. A substitute. "Hey!" He laughed aloud, his face twisted with self-mockery and bitterness. But his brother was dead. Could he really be outdone by a corpse? He refused to believe it. These past days, as if possessed, he'd returned several times to the princess's villa. only to find it empty each time. The servants merely said the princess had moved away, her whereabouts unknown. Staring at the empty courtyard, he froze in place. And so, he drowned himself in drink day after day. Drunk, he would weep and laugh, a veritable madman, until turmoil erupted again at the frontier. Defying the emperor's orders, he slipped away to the border. Once I become a hero who defends our homeland, she will surely change her mind, Xi Yanli thought to himself. Several months later, on a midday afternoon, I was resting beneath the crabapple tree in the courtyard. Xiao Kui rushed over, her face pale with terror. Young miss, the crown prince fell from his horse at the frontier and was trampled to death by the stampeding horses. My eyes snapped open, my heart skipping a beat. Xi Yanli, dead? Xiao Kui continued chattering. And that courtesan, Yun Sheng. After the crown prince locked her away in the outbuilding's woodshed, no one looked after her. They say, she starved to death. Truly, evil begets evil. Thank goodness you saw his true colors early on, miss, and divorced him to escape that hellhole. I listened in a daze, my breath momentarily caught in my throat. Xi Yanli, dead? Spring light remained bright and beautiful, the begonia blossoms in full bloom. A single begonia petal fell onto my shoulder, and in my ear seemed to echo the clear, warm voice of a youth from many years ago. Ninkin, look at this begonia, doesn't it resemble your blushing face? When you come of age, I shall petition the emperor to marry you as my sole wife. With me by your side, no one shall ever dare to wrong you. Third Prince Xi Yanci held a crabapple blossom and pinned it in my hair. But suddenly, a scar slowly rose on his face. I froze for a moment, then turned to look at Hao Kui. Let's go check on the chicken congee in the pot. The end.